Welcome. I am Rob Goff, the Head of Research and Tech Analyst with Echelon Capital Markets. I am very pleased to have Michael Zahra, the President and CEO of Drone Delivery Canada, with us today to discuss the exciting roadmap ahead for both drone delivery as a category and in particular his company. Before starting the stage, I'd like to do a little bit of an intro in terms of our perspective. We are exceptionally bullish on the potential for drones to become a core component of the global business-to-business logistics market, with the business-to-consumer market then expected to positively redefine the market scope. We recently launched coverage of Drone Delivery Canada, or better known as FLT to market watchers, listed on the TSXV with a speculative buy rating. We are forecasting that the shares will double over the next 12 months to our $1.80 price target. Even more recently, we moved to include FLT shares in Echelon's top pick portfolio for Q3 2020. These moves reflect our view that Drone Delivery Canada is exceptionally well positioned to quickly emerge as both a domestic and international leader in the marketplace. We see drone delivery as well positioned in terms of its service capability, its strategic partnerships, and its IP. Our positive view then turns to management, where Michael himself brings a unique academic and practical experience set with degrees in engineering, international business, and logistics, along with top leadership experience in tech as the past president of Yahoo Canada, in the logistics field as past president of Staples Business Advantage Canada, and as the past president of Schlumberger RMS Canada, an important technology company to the oil and gas space, a key target, a key target market for a drone. Michael, welcome to the call.
Thanks very much for having me.
Oh, no, our pleasure. And just to get things rolling, could you perhaps start off with a brief profile of drone? Describe where you are or where you see yourself being in your evolution and some of the catalysts we can look forward to. Over
Sure. Yeah. So we're about 6 years old. A great Canadian success story. Obviously, when the company started many years ago, it was a bit of a crazy idea, and we worked very closely with the government to identify opportunities that were viable, and then started to develop the technology, got regulatory approval with Transport Canada, who's the regulatory body in Canada, and then really became a compliant operator and got approval for our drones. So the first few years were really development technology and regulatory approval. And then I started with the company in 2018, and my mandate was really to take the company from that startup entity to a fully commercialized, fully operational business, which we are now. And then part of that process was building out our new facility. We signed a 10-year agreement with Air Canada as a commercial partner to resell and market our system globally. And we've been signing customers, we've been implementing customers. And then anybody who's been following what we've been doing, we've had a lot of very positive press releases over the last little while, including starting to generate revenue in Q1 of this year. So it's been a natural progression of a typical startup company, but we are now at the point where we're fully commercialized, fully operational, generating revenue, signing new customers, and very excited about where we are and the progress that we've made.
Michael, as a follow-on, could you address how COVID-19 has changed some of your own timelines and how you might define the market opportunity?
So before the pandemic, broadly, there were really two use cases. The first one was remote communities, so indigenous or not, and this is an area of focus and an issue for last mile delivery, not just in Canada, but globally. So difficult to access locations, remote communities, mining and oil and gas, where a lot of the projects are remote or could be out at sea for an oil rig as an example. So really where access was difficult. The second very broadly defined use case before the pandemic, and these are still true during the pandemic, was where time is of the essence. So maybe you can get there, but if I can get there more quickly with a drone, it makes all the difference. And it could be life-saving, like medical applications or humanitarian or emergency aid. But it could also be because time is money in the commercial and industrial markets, again, for mining and oil and gas and couriers and these sort of things. So those were before the pandemic, really the two broad use cases. With the pandemic, and obviously it's a bad thing, we wish it didn't happen, but it has certainly raised the profile of the company and raised the profile of the industry overall. It's created two new use cases. The first one is the ability to limit person-to-person contact while also still maintaining the supply chain. So it could be an indigenous community that wants to prevent the virus from coming into the community. It could be healthcare, and they don't want to cross-contaminate between buildings or anything along those lines. But they need to keep the supply chain open to move medical supplies, testing swabs, PPE, or what have you. So drones are perfect for that application to keep the supply chain open, but limit person-to-person contact because of what's going on with the pandemic. And then the fourth use case that's come about is a lot of companies, as a result of the pandemic, they're looking at their business continuity plans and their disaster recovery plans, and they're realizing they don't have a backup to their supply chain. So they're looking at drones as being an integral part of their supply chain to extend or even replace certain components of the supply chain that they might be having difficulty with during a pandemic or any kind of natural disaster or anything along those lines. So similar to what you might do, you might have a contract with a company that has a diesel generator that gives you backup electricity in case of a catastrophe or a large power outage. They're looking at drones as an integral part of the supply chain and disaster recovery plan. So really, the pandemic has raised the profile of the business, raised the profile of the industry, and created two new use cases. So we've got a lot of interest in the last quite a few months from healthcare, from the government, federally and provincially, from First Nations community. So it's definitely increased the activity and use cases for what we're doing.
And perhaps taking it one step further, could you talk to how this may have changed the pacing or the prioritization of some of your approvals to your fleet or commercial contracts?
So the commercial customers that we've been dealing with, I mean, they had a valid use case and ROI for a drone delivery project prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic hasn't caused that to go away. In some cases, it's accelerated it, but certainly there have not been any commercial or industrial customers or prospects in the funnel that have gone away because of the pandemic, but they still have viable use cases. If you look at what I said earlier, we've had definitely an increase in opportunities and outreach from First Nations, from the government, from healthcare, broadly defined as hospitals and medical labs and that sort of thing. So that's certainly raised the activity. We also are working with Transport Canada, and they have said that they are willing to demonstrate some flexibility. They're not being specifics on a case-by-case basis, understandably, but they're willing to fast track approvals of new drones or projects that might be outside the scope of the typical rules. So Transport Canada has demonstrated that they're willing to be flexible, which is great. And also other departments within the government are keen to do whatever they can do with technology like ours to help with the pandemic. So we have started to fast track the Robin as well as the Condor as a result of sort of general, I would say, commercial interest in it. That's been very favorable. But also because of the pandemic and some inquiries we've had, we're working with Transport Canada to potentially fast track those two.
And I would think the Condor, because of its range, its speed, its ability to carry weights, would be of priority with many of your potential clients?
Yeah, so there are remote communities that the Sparrow or the Robin can certainly access, but there are communities in Canada, First Nations or Inuit communities that are rather distant. I mean, hundreds of kilometers away from other communities or large urban centers. So the Condor, with its range of 200 kilometers and its payload capacity of 180 kilograms or 400 pounds is ideal for long distance, or where you need to move bulk supplies like bulk PPE or respirators or ventilators or these sort of things. So definitely there's been an increased interest in the Condor because of the pandemic, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. And when I originally introduced it, I talked about the B2B marketplace first and then the B2C marketplace. Could you talk to how you see those unfolding and some of the hurdles to be crossed?
So the industry has really been a crawl, walk, run approach by the regulator and really by us as well. And that makes sense given what we're doing, and it's it was new at the time, and safety and these sort of things. So the way the industry started was really a focus on remote, which were typically First Nations communities or very distant, maybe non-Indigenous communities. So it migrated from remote to rural. And we've done rural projects as well. We recently announced a defibrillator project that was in a rural environment in Ontario. And then it's also migrated to suburban in the last little while. We have suburban projects. DSV is a perfect example of a project I would say is suburban. But they've all been, I would say, more B2B type applications today. Residential applications or very high density urban applications are still probably a little ways away. I mean, they're coming as part of the natural progression. But today, really with the regulatory environment, it's hard to have a project that's, for instance, downtown Toronto, from a building downtown to a building downtown. Really, the regulations don't allow for that, and flying over high density populations and that sort of thing. But we've seen the progression of the industry, so it's a natural expectation that we'll see more high density urban applications in the future, residential applications in the future. And Transport Canada has been really good to work with. Obviously, they have a mandate of safety and these sort of things, but they also genuinely want to move the industry forward. They're generally pushing the envelope, working very collaboratively with players in the industry and leaders in the industry, such as ourselves. So we do see that they want to move the industry forward, and they're probably operating at the pace that they should. But we will see a natural progression into more urban and residential and high density applications in the future. And then one day in our lifetime, I'm sure we'll have unmanned flying taxi drones. So we'll see that, which would be great in dealing with traffic. So.
And you mentioned it briefly, but perhaps could you dive a bit deeper into the significance of your partnership with Air Canada, both domestically, but also then turning abroad and talking to how they may help to open doors for you internationally, and how another name you brought up, Industry Canada, might also be a positive ambassador for you there, or Transport Canada would be a positive ambassador.
Right. So maybe I'll start with the Transport Canada first. So obviously our focus initially was in Canada. That's where we are. We're a great Canadian success story. So initially we focused on Canada and commercializing and being operational here and improving the business model and the technology implementation. And we've done that. So definitely, we look to go outside of Canada. One of the benefits of working with Transport Canada and being a compliant operator with Transport Canada and having our drone certified with Transport Canada is Transport Canada has a very strong reputation in the United States, in Europe, and really all the global markets. So as we move into other markets, we still need to deal with the local regulator, but we're not starting from scratch because of the work that we have with Transport Canada and the credibility that they have in other markets. So definitely the benefit is transportable to other regulatory bodies for approvals and operations in other markets. So Transport Canada is definitely, the relationship we have with Transport Canada is definitely of benefit to us and gives us credibility as we go into international markets. With Air Canada, it was end of May of 2019, so literally almost a year, that we signed a 10-year agreement with Air Canada. Really unprecedented globally. There's no such other program been signed with a drone logistics company and a major international airline. And essentially, They are acting as a commercial agent, a reseller of our system, a remarketer of our system. Again, initially focused in Canada. We wanted to build some critical mass and get some wins in Canada, and we've done that. And then the agreement envisions extending it into United States and European markets in the future. What has happened is those opportunities have come to us, opportunities internationally have come to us faster than what we expected, which is a good thing. And I've done some international travel with Air Canada, and they're extremely well connected globally through their own offices, through regulators, through industrial, commercial, and logistics partners that they deal with globally. DSV is a perfect example. A very large European logistics company, and that opportunity came to us via Air Canada as a reseller commercial partner. So, the migration from Canada to international with Air Canada is happening, and they bring a lot to the table in terms of expertise in cargo, obviously, and specialized cargo, but also their global network. So very, very excited to be partnered with them, and thus far it's been very fruitful. A lot of great opportunities we've signed, a lot more in the funnel in Canada and internationally. So we're very excited about that.
You mentioned DSV, and I want to circle back to that. But on the focus for international for the moment, could you talk to what a potential international partnership might look like? What would be the parameters or the construct of a potential partnership?
Sure, I can talk about what it looks like internationally and then in Canada, because they're slightly different. So in Canada, we implement the projects ourselves, but internationally, it's more of a licensing agreement. So we would find a partner who wishes to be a drone operator in their local market. So it could be a large airline, it could be a large freight forwarder, or somebody in the logistics space, somebody where this is a good fit for what they're doing today, and a natural extension of what they're doing. And they're obviously well connected with the regulator, well connected to be able to market this opportunity within their local market. Oh, that's my phone ringing. So sorry, it could be a customer.
It's a good sign.
Exactly, it's always ringing. It's good. So it's a licensing agreement with a partner, and the way it would work is the initial phase would be more of I would say an engineering engagement with them to get them certified as an operator in their local country, get the drones type approved as aircraft in their local country. So there would be an engineering engagement that they would pay us for to get that process going. We envision the first few projects that they get with their customers, they're going to want us to implement them so we can train them to implement future projects themselves. So the first 2, 3, 4, 5 projects we would implement with them, watching and learning for what we're doing as part of the training process, and they would obviously pay us for that as well. And then once they're up and running with a few small customers, then there would be an ongoing licensing fee. It's a 7-digit licensing fee for them to benefit from the use of our system and the technology we've developed and the intellectual property that we have. And then there's also a managed service, similar to what we have in Canada. We are the back end of the system, monitoring the drones and the routes as everything is running. And that's a fee-based managed service that they would pay us for every route and every drone that's flying internationally. So slightly different structure than what we have in Canada, because it's more of a licensing deal. Not exactly a franchise, but you could look at it as a kind of a franchise model where we're enabling somebody else to be the operator in their local market. So.
And would it be fair to talk to some of the countries where there has been expressed interest in a partnership?
Sure. So we are in active discussions in a number of countries, United States, obviously, India, Israel, a few countries in Africa, Europe, of course. So we are having, and Middle East as well. So we are in I would say, fairly advanced conversations in some of those countries, and rather optimistic that we'll see something happening in the next little while. That's what we expect. Again, part of the licensing model. So we're very excited to have good traction in Canada, but also to be branching out internationally in a very controlled way, but branching out internationally as part of our natural progression as we grow. And the business is really designed from the beginning as a scalable international business. So this has all been, part of the original plan and the original design of the business, the business model, the operations control center, and these sort of things. So,
And the Air Canada name resonates with investors. I don't think DSV has the same panache with investors. Could you perhaps talk to the scope of its reach and what that could evolve into?
Yeah, so DSV is maybe not as well known by the average person on the street, but within the logistics field, and certainly within Europe, where they're based in Denmark, they're well known, and they are a very large, multi-billion-dollar global logistics company, one of the top in the world for sure. And we signed them as a customer for the first route, which has been operating since Q1 of this year when revenue started. They were our first revenue customer. We've been doing hundreds of flights a month with them very successfully. We recently announced a second route with them, which is going to be from their very large 1.2 million square foot facility in Milton, Ontario, off-site to a couple of their customers, moving healthcare products, including some COVID-19 related healthcare products. And the first route was with the Sparrow between two drone spot depots. The second route is exciting because it's going to be our first route with the recently announced Sparrow cargo drop functionality, where we leave DSV, we fly to a location where there's very minimal infrastructure. We reduce altitude and drop an untethered load and without landing, and then fly back to DSV. So we're excited about that. It's a 3.5 kilometer route. It's helping DSV service a couple of the customers. It's going to be flying over the 401, which is the busiest road in the world. So we're excited about being able to do that as well. And we're very excited about other potential routes with DSV in Canada and globally. I mean, they're really a great customer for us because they're very innovative. They're really a thought leader in logistics. They want to move forward in terms of being able to take care of their customers and be responsive to new technology and new customer needs. And they're very scalable for us because of their size and their global operation. So very excited to be partnering with DSV.